So, before starting that, do you have any questions for me, guys? Any questions? No? All good? Kamaldeep, Manikanda, Manisha, Ravi, Veena, Vijay. So, no questions? Okay. Is it possible to see our list content of a bucket from browser? So from browser, no. By using third-party tools, yes, we can. By using CLI also, we can do that. Okay. So we have started discussing about S3. So S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, and basically it is a object-based storage. We can store only flat files. It's like a blob storage. So you can store PDFs, images, audio documents, video documents, and there is unlimited storage available. And maximum object size, one individual object size is 5 TB. But again, there is unlimited storage for entire platform. One object, 5 TB. No pre-provisioning is required. So how much data you are going to store, you will get charged for that. And we are going to store all data in bucket. Again, bucket is nothing but a directory with unique namespace across the globe. Unique namespace across the globe. And S3 is a global service. It does not require any region selection. But while creating, you must choose a region. So physically, all data or that bucket present in that particular region. So then, whenever you are creating a bucket, you must follow some naming standards, limitations. So minimum is 3 characters, maximum 63 characters length. It supports no uppercase letter, no special character, and should not start with dot, should not end with dot, no adjacent double dots, and it should not resemble IP address format. And the default performance is you're going to get 5,500 read requests per second and 3,500 write requests per second. So if you want to improve this performance, simple, design a proper naming prefix. So that means, like, I'll tell you one simple example, guys. So we, Bajaj FinServe, they use AWS. And whenever you're uploading any documents, so if it is a PDF, okay, one particular, if it is an image, one particular, and if it is like any other types, like so docs, another particular directory or folder. So after that, like you can give, okay, PAN card, or you can give any. So if you are about to search for a PDF, simply go inside this and search for the directory, search for the folder. Do you really need to search in this images or documents? No, right? So, but if you are putting everything, so here you have a folder, you are putting everything inside that folder. Now, I need a document. What are the search result or search query I am running? It must run on top of all documents, right? But here, let's assume total 100 files. Out of that, only 20 PDFs, 20 images, remaining 60 documents. Now I need a PDF. So if I have 100 files inside a folder, if I run a search query, it is going to run all the 100 documents. But here I need a PDF. The request will go to inside this particular prefix, and it is going to run in only 20 documents. So I'll get quick results. So instead of putting all data in your directly bucket, make sure you design a proper naming prefix. So then unique naming prefix. Then you will get all the search results pretty quickly. And this S3 supports couple of services. Like we have service like Amazon Athena and Redshift these are in-place query services. You can put TBs and DBs data. You can run a simple query by using SQL, but we have many tools. Workbench, JSQL. So you can take the tool and you can run all your queries. So in such type of cases, you are going to get results pretty quickly. And whenever you are creating a bucket, this is a standard naming format. So HTTP yes, :/ S3. In what region you created this S3 bucket, .amazonaws.com / what exactly bucket name, then / what exactly object name. Again, directly this URL will not work. First, you need to disable public settings, public access settings on your bucket. By default, that is going to enable with block. You must disable that, then only you can make an object public. Without disabling that option, you cannot share any object with any outside world user. Okay, so that is what it is. So there is a sample document which I shared in our last session. So then we have a couple of storage classes. So based on our access patterns, we can choose our required storage class. What are the data you are accessing frequently? S3 standard. What are the data you are accessing infrequently? Standard infrequently or one zone infrequently. This one zone infrequently is going to store only in one availability zone. Remaining all S3 standard, infrequently accessed Glacier Deep Archive, backend it is going to contain 3 copies of your data. So then we have Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive and RRS, non-mission critical data, easily reproducible, go with RRS. And Glacier or Deep Archive for longer archivals, and data will not be available immediately. You must restore, initialize a restoration. So then we can get that. If you're really not sure about your access patterns, you can just go and pick this intelligent tag. When coming to pricing, it depends on 3. Storage class and size per month is the first thing. How many requests happen is the second thing. And data transfer is third thing. So then we have free tier limitation. 5 GB standard, this is important. 5 GB standard storage. Again, remaining classes, like you are going to get charged only cents, 1 cent, 2 cents. If you're practicing with small, text document or PDF, not more than that. And under free tier limitation, you are going to get 2,000 put request and 20,000 get request. You can navigate to your billing dashboard. You can observe how much you already utilized this month. What is the forecast for this month end? Then you can plan your activities accordingly. Okay. So now, as a first step, we are going to discuss versioning.
5 GB for 2 users, and only for both account.
For all AWS, for all users within your AWS account. Yes. See, the platform is same for everyone. Remember that. If you have 100 users also, if they have valid permissions on S3, if they navigate to S3, they can see that 5 GB data. All 100 users. So, per AWS account, 5 GB. Okay, yes, the first thing is versioning we are going to discuss. So, yes, Kamaldeep.
Hello?
Yes.
I have a question. Okay, we can share the object in the bucket. Can we share the whole bucket
We can.
publicly?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We'll see that. We will see
Okay.
that in our ACLs and bucket policies.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
We have not yet into that permissions topic. We'll discuss that.
Okay.
Okay. So now the first and important feature is versioning. So I believe all these versions and okay. So if you're not sure, for example, you have a document. Let's assume you have a document called resume.txt. So first of all, you have prepared some resume and you have added some skills. and you have uploaded the resume. Later on, you started adding all your skills into a document, or you keep on modifying the document. And for example, now I have skill 1. So then I opened same document, I deleted that and I updated with something and I close that. Now, do I know what exactly the previous one? This is the latest one. But am I maintaining any other copy to track changes happening on this one? No. No. So, but if I'm doing like this, for example, for skill 1, I'm doing like this, and this is my first copy or first dropped or first version. So later on, what I'm going to do is the second one, I'm going to go to the version 1.1, and then along with this, I'm going to add skill 2. Now I have 2 copies. This is my first copy. This is my version 1.0. This is 1.1. Later on, if you are modifying something, you are going to name that as a version 1.2. Then you are going to add, like, okay, let's assume that is skill 3. So you are continuously modifying document and you want to track all the changes happening on that file. Okay, fine. If it is a small file, I just want to I just want to show some example. So I'm modifying it manually. But you have tens, thousands, and hundreds of the data. Are you going to manage it manually? Bit difficult. You know Git. Version control system. But Git is best suitable for your code, programming languages. And you know TFS, Team Foundation Server, or GitHub, Bitbucket, or SVN. So basically these are all designed to manage your code. All programs are going to write and they are going to modify their code, right? Because all developers will use that tools. And that is suitable for that documents, text documents. And when coming to Amazon S3, it supports any type of file. And you really don't need to manage individual version. If you enable a feature, Amazon is going to automatically manage all versions for us. And even we can get our data if you accidentally delete if versioning is enabled. If you delete a file, you can even get that object back into S3 bucket if versioning is enabled on your S3 bucket. Okay, so let's quickly log in and let's see this. Let's observe this option. So if you enable this versioning on your S3 bucket, whatever the file you are going to upload, it will get a version ID. And we cannot manage that version ID. Amazon randomly generates. Then what is a unique thing, or what is an important factor here? The timestamp is important factor. You can open any individual version and you can observe that. You can open any file and you can observe that individual version. So the one you uploaded recently is going to treat it as a current version or latest version. If you delete only that particular one, you will get a delete marker. If you delete the delete marker, you will get your data back again. Okay, we'll see all those things hands-on. So let me quickly log into my AWS account. And after versioning, we will see lifecycle management role. How you can transit all data from one storage class to another storage class automatically. Okay. Okay, I'm navigating to S3 platform. and I'm creating a bucket. Click on create bucket. Bucket name, I'm going to call this as Avinash and I'm giving today's date and Mumbai region. Click on create. So here is a bucket. Let's navigate inside the bucket, and here you can see bucket and objects not public. So if I want to edit this, go to permissions, block public access, edit that, uncheck, save, write confirm. Then click on confirm. All right. So now, so far I'm talking about this resume document. So I'm manually managing these versions. Now what I'm going to do, I deleted the previous versions. This is my current version, skill 1. So I'm going to upload that. So I'm just simply dragging and dropping, upload. That's what I did. I did some modification, let's assume. I have not enabled version yet. Okay. So then I'm going to perform drag and drop again. And if I go this object and see here, only latest version is available. No other previous ones. If I open and if I observe, only one is available. Why? Because we have not enabled versioning. Before enabling versioning, it is going to maintain only one copy. The one you uploaded most recently, it is going to keep that copy only. The previous one is deleted automatically. It's overridden. Okay, but if you enable versioning, yes, we have an advantage. So let's do that. So I have a skill 1 document and uploading that here. All right. So now to enable versioning, go to properties. The first option is versioning. See, I am getting only one object if I don't have version, and as I have uploaded this, I have only that. Right? Now, go to properties, versioning, enable versioning. See that the versioning is by default in suspended state. There is no option to disable this. This disable is not available. There is no option to disable. Either you can suspend or you can enable. So I'm going to select enable versioning, then click on save. So now versioning is enabled. When you enable versioning, you're going to get an option here. Seems that is not enabled. So just go here, enable. Before that, see, do we have any option next to actions? No options. Go here, enable versioning, click on save. Now it is enabled. Just give a quick refresh to confirm that. Okay, now it is enabled. When you go to overview, here you can see you got a new option called versions. So you may get a doubt. I already have some documents. Am I going to get versions for that? No. The version ID is going to null for all the existing documents. So let's click on this version to show. We have a version ID and that is showing null. Okay. So while creating bucket itself, we can enable all these options. So now I'm continuously modifying this document. Okay, now I have skill 1 and so let's assume you have added skill 2. Uploaded that here. And you have added skill 3. And again, you uploaded that. Okay. So now let's observe this document. So versioning is set to hide and it is showing the latest timestamp one. So just pick this object. When you click on open, it is going to show you the latest one. But as we enable versioning, we do have previous ones also. If you want to view what exactly this one, which is uploaded 7:55, 52 seconds, 53 seconds, and 58 third second. So pick that, click on open. Okay, this is our first one. Go here, select this. This is our, see this? This is our latest one. This is the first one. This is the second one, and this is the third one. So we are tracking all changes happening on this files, right? Now, You accidentally deleted this document. Again, see this, I am setting version to hide. When you set version to show, if you delete anything, you are not going to get any delete marker. When the version is setting to hide, if you delete, you will get a delete marker. And simple, if you delete latest version, you will get a delete marker. Okay, I'm selecting this resume.txt, actions, delete, click on delete. See this, that object, what happens? Let me give a quick refresh. Object is not deleted. Okay, I'm selecting that object, actions, delete, click on delete. Okay, it got deleted. So it is saying the bucket is empty. So it is saying you do not have any documents in this bucket, right? Now, as versioning is set to hide, I'm not able to see anything. But as we already have versioning, you can set to show. See this, we have two files. Along with that, we got selected delete mark. We have delete marker. Okay. So now, if you delete this delete marker, you will get your object back into your S3 bucket. I'm deleting delete marker, but before that, see bucket is empty. Click on show versioning, select the delete marker, delete it. Yes, we got our object back into our S3 bucket. Okay. Now I want to completely delete this object. I want to completely delete this object, then set to show, select all individual versions, then delete it. Now this object is completely deleted, including all the previous versions and everything. Now there is no option to get that. But if you have an important data, if you really don't want to get that option, we have another feature called object lock that we will discuss. But see here, the same object, how many times you are going to upload, that is matter. Okay. For example, you have uploaded with some wrong data. You have entered some wrong data and you uploaded the document to S3 platform. Now the wrong data one is the latest one. See, the wrong data one is the latest one, right? So again, if I go here, if I select this, if I delete, I'm going to get a delete marker. But what I want to do is, I want to make this one as a latest version. This contains wrong data and these two files contains proper data only. Okay, so in that case, set versioning to show, select this object. See, I'm selecting an object where it got created at 148, 143. I'm selecting this and I'm deleting it manually. So immediately 132 one becomes the latest version. When you set to versioning to show, if you delete any object, you are not going to get delete marker. Okay. So then I'm selecting this 132 one and I'm deleting that. Immediately 126 one become as a latest version. So this is what the latest version is. So clear with the delete marker, when we will get delete marker. Okay. So if you are deleting, when versioning is set to hide, you will get a delete marker. And if you want to get that object back, delete the delete marker, you will get that object back. I deleted, but it is overridden with delete marker. Go here, delete this delete marker, and we got that object back again. Okay, clear with this option? Okay. So if we suddenly suspend version, and that should we see the previous versions. If you suspend versions, what are the objects you already have? That will be available, but all the future or subsequent uploads will not get any versions. And is it possible to disable override? Then versioning was disabled. I didn't get that clearly, Pushpa. when versioning is in suspended state, the future uploads or subsequent uploads, after disabling, what are the uploads you are going to perform? That will not get any individual versions. Only one document is going to maintain or track. And many organizations, not many, only very few organizations use this S3 platform to store their code also. And in our CI/CD session, continuous integration and continuous deployment, we are going to put all our code in S3 platform and we will perform the task. So S3 you can use to store your code also. Okay, you can use any format of the file. And again, you may get a doubt. Am I going to get charged for only latest version or all the versions? So let's assume the same document I am uploading multiple times. Now, I've not modified any changes. The same document with same data is uploaded. So remember, uploaded time is matter here. If you're not modified any changes, also no issues. It is going to verify, okay, whether file name is same or not. Then it is going to add one more version. Okay. See here, you are not going to get charged for only latest version. You are going to get charged for all the 3 versions. Again, how we can reduce that cost, how we can save, we will discuss. Okay, so can we get any warning when we are uploading duplicate objects? No, we don't have such type of feature here. So how to permanently delete the file when the version is in hide mode? When version is in hide mode, you cannot delete it permanently if versioning is enabled. If you want to delete it completely, make sure you set it to show and you delete that object completely. Then only you can. Okay, so now the next feature is lifecycle management role. So let's discuss, let's write down a couple of things here. Basically, this works as a backup tool. This is a backup option on our S3 bucket. So defaultly in suspended state, if you want, we can enable and we can suspend. Before enabling versioning, what are the objects you have? Before enabling versioning, what are the objects you have? Existing objects will get version ID as null. And if you delete latest version of the object and when version is set to hide only, we will get a delete marker. So delete the delete marker to get our object back to S3 bucket. Okay, so that is a versioning feature. So now, so if you're continuously modifying or if you're continuously uploading that object to S3 bucket, so you're going to get a lot of cost, right? It is going to incur a lot of cost. So we are performing with only simple text file. Let's assume you're dealing with some videos and you're continuously uploading and you're modifying something, you're re-uploading. So again, you really don't want to maintain all the copies. You want to maintain only last 30 days copies or last 20 days copies, and remaining you want to delete automatically. What are the data you have? After 2 days you want to delete automatically. You just want to have legally hold only latest version of the data. Previous one you want to delete automatically. So to achieve such type of scenarios, we can use lifecycle management rules. Not only that, you have some data and you want to transit the data from one storage class to another storage class automatically. Now this data is in S3 standard. So let's assume for first 20 days, you are going to access this data on daily basis. After that, you need the data immediately, but not going to access on daily basis. So you want to move the data to infrequently access storage classes. Then after, you want to keep the data for coming 2 years or 3 years, but you are okay with for some restoration durations. You're okay to wait for some time to get the data. Then you want to move to Glacier. Then at some point of time, you can trigger to delete that. Or else from S3 standard, directly I want to move to Glacier. Then I want to trigger to delete option. Or I really don't want to use any other storage classes. From S3 standard, directly I want to delete on a particular day. We can achieve all that scenarios by using lifecycle management roles. So let's quickly draw a diagram. So whatever the data I'm going to take, the data is basically, the benchmark is object creation date. Come on. The benchmark is object creation date. So first, by defaultly, what is the storage class we are going to have? S3 standard. Whatever the object you are uploading, that will get a storage class called S3 standard. That is a default. From that only you need to transit to any other storage classes. Okay. From S3 standard, at some point of time, you want to move the data to infrequently access or one zone infrequently access. Standard infrequently or one zone infrequently access. Again, after some days, you decided to move it to Glacier or Glacier Deep Archive. Glacier or Glacier Deep Archive, not just only Deep Archive. And at some point of time, you want to delete it, right? So you even want to delete it. Delete option. So now you have uploaded an object into an S3 bucket. By default, that came to S3 standard. Now, based on our storage requirement or access pattern, so if you want to move that object to S3 standard infrequently access or one zone infrequently access, see, both are having properties same and both are designed for same purpose. But there the data is going to be in only one availability zone and 40% less cost. So here more, but design purpose is same. So then after, you can move to Glacier. At some point of time, you can trigger to delete this. This is first scenario. We don't want to go with this. Again, I'm going to get all data into S3 standard. I really don't want to use under infrequently access. I'm going to access for a couple of days. Then I want to move it to Glacier. We can, at some point of time, we can trigger to delete that. Again, I really don't want to go with that option also. So I want to, whatever the data I have in S3 standard, I want to directly delete at some point of time. Okay. Now, if you want to move any data from S3 standard to standard infrequently access, the duration must be 30 days before transiting the data to S3 standard. That means data must stored in S3 standard for 30 days. Then only you can move it to infrequently access. Again, these days are from object creation. Then 60 days to move it to Glacier. These are minimum values again. 61st day, you can trigger to delete it. So if you want to go with this first scenario, so you are going to upload the data, right? You are going to upload some data into an S3 bucket. And if you apply lifecycle management role, after 30 days, it will go to infrequently access, then it will go to Glacier, then it will go to it deletes based on the values we selected here. Now, when coming to this scenario, immediate next day, you can trigger to move the data to Glacier. Then next to that day, you can trigger to delete that from Glacier. That is the second scenario. When coming to this third one, so immediate next day, you can trigger to delete that. You can trigger to delete that. Let's see. Let's configure that on our lifecycle management role on our S3 bucket. See here, there is no option like a expire and all, but when you enable that feature, we are going to get one. So before that, I'll upload a couple of documents. I need some data basically, and I'm going to upload same data multiple times. Okay, now when I click on show, every object has its previous versions and latest version. See? Okay. Now, to create lifecycle management role, go to bucket management option. The first option is lifecycle. Click on add lifecycle role. So here, enter a rule name. So what exactly rule name you want to enter? So first lifecycle role. Then add a filter to limit scope to prefix or tags. For example, you want to apply this lifecycle management role to a folder inside this bucket. We can add that as a prefix. Or else, whatever the data you have with particular tag, only you can applicable to that. If you want to apply to entire bucket, leave this blank. For example, you have a folder, click on create folder, and I'm going to call that folder as like, okay, I'm going to call it as Avinash and click on save. Now, inside this Avinash, you have 1 or 2 documents. Now, I want to create a lifecycle management role only for this Avinash directory. Then we can do that. Add lifecycle, give a name. Here, give a name. Prefix as Avinash. Whatever the files have prefix with Avinash, this lifecycle management role applicable to that data only. And we can even add tags. We will talk about the tags. So what are the data you have with particular tag, you can apply this lifecycle management role to that particular tag only. So I leave this blank. That means I'm going to upload to my entire S3 bucket. Click on next. Now, storage class transitions. See here, I'm moving objects from one storage class to another storage class, right? But am I moving current versions or previous versions? Latest versions or previous versions? We can applicable to both. You can apply for both, or you can apply for only latest version, or you can apply for only previous version. For example, for current versions, only I want to apply. Previous versions, I really don't want to maintain any storage class transitions. I want to delete it automatically. Then you really don't need to select that option here. Under expiration, you can configure that thing. So I'm going to select current version as well as previous version. So here is an option for current versions, add transition. Now, from S3 standard, see S3 standard is not available. The reason is that is a default storage class. From S3 standard to what storage class you want to move? I want to move it to standard infrequently access. After 30 days, that is a minimum duration. If you are giving 29, it will not accept that. Must be equal to 30 or greater than that. So 30. Again, from standard infrequently access, where do you want to move? Add transition from standard infrequently access to, I want to move to OneZone or intelligent diary or Glacier. Again, Glacier required minimum 60 days. This is small object, that is okay. No issue. And for previous version, see, I'm showing this feature now, this transition. So first to infrequently access, then to Glacier, In next step, I'm going to configure the expiration. That means delete option. Okay. Again, if you want to if you want to apply this one from S3 standard directly, you want to move to Glacier, then delete. In that case, don't select this infrequently access. For current version, from S3 standard, directly I'm moving to Glacier after 1 day. Immediate next day, I'm moving and I'm going to trigger to delete that in next step. This is, I'm showing this blue color one now. When coming to this last one, from S3 standard directly I want to delete, then don't select anything here. Click on next, directly configure expiration. Either it is a current version or previous version, what are the options you selected here? So select both the options, come back here, configure the expiration. On that particular day, it is going to delete automatically. Right? So now I'll show these outputs. How you can initialize this storation. So what I will do for current version of the object, I'll move to Glacier. Immediate next day. For previous versions, I'll trigger to delete automatically. I really don't want to move and all. Again, if I need to demonstrate this or this I'm going to demonstrate now. If I want to demonstrate this, I need to wait for 61 days or 60 days. So that is why I'm not picking that option. So what I'm going to do is, whatever the data is coming to S3 standard, immediate next day, I'm moving the data to Glacier. Then after 3 days or 4 days, I'm triggering to delete that. So days after creation, I'm moving it to Glacier. So you need to acknowledge that. If it is a small objects, you are going to get charged for that. No issues. Click on next. Now, configure expiration. Current version. When you delete current version, what happened? When you delete a current version, what will happen? You will get a delete marker. So that feature is called as an expiration. It is not going to delete permanently. So the object is going to expire. So when current version of object is going to expire, after 4 days from date of creation, it is going to expire. The current version is going to expire. The previous version, see when I select this previous version, then only I am getting this feature. That means this is applicable for previous version. When do you want to permanently delete all the previous versions? I want to store for 1 day, immediate next day I want to trigger to delete that. So I selected that. And we have another feature like a incomplete multi-part upload. So basically, whenever you initialized multi-part upload, if that job complete within given days, so that's okay. If it is not completed within these given days, it is going to cancel all that uploaded. So basically, if you have more than 1 GB of the file, Amazon will recommend you to go with multi-part upload feature. Okay. So the object is going to upload it in form of chunks, small bits. You know, torrent. Whenever you are downloading something from torrent, it is not going to download in sequential manner. The entire file becomes as small chunks, small parts, and it is going to download and it is going to combine later on. Then you will get that video, right? So exactly same way. We have some third-party tools also. I'll share a couple of URLs for that. I think that's in my office device. Okay, so we can use it and we can upload. So this is completely different feature. So not a big feature to add. So in my opinion, Amazon added that here. So configure the expirations here. Click on next. This is a review screen. So name, we have given the scope. I applied for whole bucket. That means I have not given any prefix or tag. So this is applicable for entire bucket. But current version of the object, I am transiting to Glacier after 1 day of creation. Then when do you want to expire? That object is going to expire after 4 days. The expire applicable to latest version. Permanently deletes after 1 day. That is for previous version. So I'm going to apply that. So when you apply this on your objects, you are going to get a new feature. Here, a new option, expiration date, and what is the expiration rule. When this object is going to expire, when what expiration rule is triggering this. You can add multiple also. You can just go here, you can add multiple expiration rules. You can add multiple life cycle management roles. So, but whatever the comes first, that is going to take that object, that's going to move that or transit that object. So that is a life cycle management role. So in between, at any time you can disable this. For example, you want to temporarily disable this. You can just go here, go to actions, disable life cycle role. The transitions is going to suspend there itself. And if you want to edit these values, yes, you can. So any questions on this lifecycle management role features, guys? And this output Glacier, I'll show you day after tomorrow. So these objects are not going to triggered with our Indian standard time. For example, I have given 1 day, right? You will not get output immediate next day. It picks UTC 12, UTC time zone. So I can show that output day after tomorrow. Okay. I'll show you how to restore data from Glacier. Okay. Is it possible to change the expire date manually for any specific object? No. If you are applying lifecycle role for entire bucket, that is not possible. But we can legally hold that object. We'll talk about that. So can we define metadata fields to object? Yes, we can by using tags option. We will talk about that, Vijay. The current version of data is expiring, so it is not permanently delayed, correct? If yes, can we delete it? So current version of the object is going to expire. It is going to overridden with delete marker. So technically delete marker is a current version. Our actual file is a previous version. So immediate next day that is also going to delete, Ravi. So no manual actions required here. Okay, so now to navigate to properties, we discussed about versioning, we discussed about lifecycle management role. So then the next feature is server access logging. So basically this feature works at individual bucket level. So this bucket is very, very important for you. What exactly happening on this bucket you want to know. So you can enable logging, but it is applicable only for this bucket. So you can store all the logs into same bucket, or you can create another bucket and you can store all logs into another bucket. Okay. So if you want to enable logging for entire S3 platform, you can use CloudTrail. So in CloudTrail, you need to create a trail, but while creating, so I'm navigating to CloudTrail. Again, don't perform anything in CloudTrail. It is going to cost you guys. So here is a trails option. Whenever you are creating a trail, here observe data events. There we have S3. Select all S3 buckets in your account. If you enable this, it is going to enable logging for all the S3 buckets in your AWS account, not only current, even for future buckets also. The logging is going to enable. Okay. Again, here also it uses an S3 bucket to store all the logs. So in what bucket you want to, that you are going to get this object level logging feature there. So but for all S3 buckets, you can simply use this feature under CloudTrail. But one S3 bucket, go and select this enable login. In what bucket you want to store all these logs? So I want to store all the logs into same bucket. And again, do we have any target prefix? I want to store everything under Avinash. Then click on save. Now, how many put operations happened, how many get operations happened, everything will comes into this Avinash directory. All logs are going to store here. Or if you are maintaining any centralized bucket for all the logs, yes, you can simply trigger that bug. You can simply go there and you can just pick that particular bucket and you can save it. Or if you want to store just within the bucket, don't give any prefix, click on save. So now all the logs are going to stored here itself, not inside any particular folder. Okay. So that is a server access logging. Again, I really don't require this. I do not have any important data. So that is a server access logging. Then the next feature is static website hosting. So when coming to the static website hosting, I believe you know static websites and dynamic websites, right? Everyone? So what is a static website? We can? Okay. Any other? Static website means it's a fixed. It is same for everyone. So let's assume you have a website. So this is a static website. Whoever is opening this website, this is my personal website basically. See, if you gave that URL, it is going to be same. If I am opening, it is going to be same. So this system don't know, okay, owner is opening or this guy have admin permissions on this, he can modify this and nothing like that. But let's take a university website. There we have a login. For student, different login. For professor, different login. For examination branch, different login. And they are going to have their required permissions. Student, he cannot modify something. He cannot modify his marks, right? But examination department, yes, they have rights to modify. So there, the website have different level of permissions and it is changing for every user. That is a dynamic website. Backend, we need to have a database and you need to maintain some roles there to whom you want to give read permission, to whom you want to give write permission. That is a dynamic website. But this S3 platform supports only static website. That's a fixed pages. Okay. So what is the advantage then? No need to maintain any servers. And it's easy to host and easy to manage. You know, GoDaddy is partnered with Amazon Web Services. GoDaddy is basically a technical partner with AWS. Whatever the static hosting you are going to select in GoDaddy, that hosted on top of Amazon S3 only. Okay. So, and for your website, you are going to get a availability 99.99% and durability as a 99% durability. Why? Because that platform has that availability and durability, right? So as you are using that platform to host your website, you are going to get same availability and durability for your website also. Okay, that is a advantages we are going to get. And whenever you enable this feature, static website hosting, you are going to get an endpoint. So again, here one limitation is, we have one particular limitation. That is, whatever the domain name you want to map, that domain name must be same as your bucket name. See, I've shown you one website. This website, right? I'm using S3 static website hosting feature. I created a bucket with this name and I enable that feature there, static website hosting. Then after I mapped this domain name to that static website endpoint. Then only I'm able to. For example, I purchased domain with avisva.ml, but bucket name is not available. Then you cannot use this feature. That is a limitation. So let me pick a bucket. I have a domain called avinash.website. Okay, I have a bucket with a name called avinash.website. Here is a bucket, and that bucket is not enabled with any static website hosting. And it's a, let's assume this is a brand new bucket. I do not have any data here, and I'm going to enable static website hosting feature. Just go here. Here is the endpoint, and at moment it is disabled. If you want to enable with this feature, just enable this. And if it is a static website, index.html is important. Or you can pick any. You can use any, but default name or standard naming is going to be index.html. Let's quickly create a couple of web pages. Again, we are not that much good at HTML. W3 Schools is there for us. Go to W3 Schools, pick any simple HTML. For example, learn HTML. Just go there. You can pick any. This is a small introduction. Click on try it yourself. Right side, okay, this is what the output. So here the page title. So you can give, okay, so this is my static website. Okay, so here what is a header you want to give? This is a title. Okay, so the title is going to be static website, and header 1 is going to be is my website, and this is a simple test. Click on run. This is what your output is going to be. So you can copy all this. You can save it with the name called index.html. Again, just you have Notepad or Notepad++. Just open that. Okay, so I'm going to write very simple HTML, opening a tag and giving header. Then I'm going to write, okay, this is a website posted using S3 static feature. Then closing the header. If you want to give body, BG color, you can give any, but I'm just closing. Okay, so I'm going to name this with index.html. Okay, so here I got index.html, and this is what my output is. Okay, so whenever you are facing any issues or planned maintenances, you can give a custom error message. For that, you need to have a error.html. So I'm going to use the same, and I'm going to call this as a, so this site is under maintenance. Contact us at, then you can give your any phone number, something, and I'm going to call this as a error.html, right? So now I have a very basic index.html and error.html. So if you have like different templates, you can definitely download the templates and you can upload to S3 platform. So now I want to use this bucket to host that. So my default object name is going to be index.html. My error document name is going to be error.html. Click on save. So it is enabled. And when you try to access this, it is saying forbidden. But I have not yet uploaded the documents here. So I'm going to upload the documents into this S3 bucket, and it got uploaded. So if you go here, if you give a refresh, so I'm not able to get that. It is saying forbidden. So can you guess what may be the reason? Endpoint is working fine. No issues with endpoint.
I don't know. Okay.
Okay. Settings on our data. Permissions. Yes. Permissions on our data. See, this is a publicly accessible URL. Okay, I can give this URL to anyone and they can access my website. But whatever the data I'm trying to deliver by using this website, that data is not given with at least read-only permissions. We do not have given not even read-only permission. That is why we are getting this forbidden or access denied. So it's a permission related. So 400 related, HTTP status codes. What is 200 related one? 200 related. Success or okay. 200 related one is okay or success. 300 related. Redirection errors. 400 client side error. 500 you have a web server, on top of that you have load balancer, that server is not working, load balancer is working. Or you have a web server that is running with full utilization, not able to reply for any new requests. Server side error. 500 related is a server side error. So 200 is okay or success. 300, if you are redirecting to any other website and that redirection is not happening, then 300 error. 400 client side. Who is client here? We are the clients. We are the clients. Now I am trying to access the data and we do not have valid permissions. See, as a AWS user, I can go here, I can open this, I'm able to get that output. But this is a publicly accessible URL, right? So the system doesn't know, okay, Avinash is accessing or any other user is accessing. So that is why it is showing access denied. So that is 400 related. You know, error 404, page not found. 500, server side error. For example, server can deliver only 100 requests per second. Or this is also one of the certification question, guys. That's why I'm discussing. So you have an S3 platform and you uploaded some data into that S3 platform and you are getting some peak utilization for one particular bucket. You are getting some peak utilization for one particular bucket and you are getting a lot of, all customers are giving complaint related to 500 related status codes. How you are going to fix that issue is one of the certification question. So in that case, pick another S3 bucket and offload some data to that. Or design a proper naming prefix. Okay, what are the requests? Instead of directly on into a one bucket, okay, point some request to one particular folder, point another request to another folder. Don't put all data into directly in one directory. So you can design that naming prefixes, you can offload or you can improve the performance. So here in this case, we do not have valid permission. So I'm going to make public for index.html as well as error.html. When I go here, give a refresh, there you can see. Not only here, you can test it anywhere. So I'm going to paste that URL in our chat box. So if you want, you can give a try with that. So you can access this web page across the globe now. Again, this is a bit difficult to remember. What I can do is, by using Route 53, I can map my domain name. Again, Route 53 is a dedicated module. There we will discuss everything. At moment, I'll show that output. But don't worry about that. What exactly I performed and all. We have a dedicated module for that. There I'll explain you how to map and all. Okay, now let's assume due to some maintenance or due to some issues, this index.html is not available. So immediately what the system will do, it will give this error.html. So let me modify permissions for this. I'm revoking that read permissions for everyone, public users. Then when I go here, when I give this, there you can see it is delivering data from error.html. Instead of giving that general browser level issues, browser level error messages, so I'm delivering one of the custom message related to that maintenance and all. Again, if you make this again available index.html, yes, again index.html will deliver that. So okay, let's give a try to access that Avinash website. There you can see. I'm trying to access this Avinash.website and all data is coming from I'm able to access that. Okay. So if you want to track all the changes happening on this or what kind of requests we got from what public IP address we got and all, yes, we can go to properties and enable server access logging on this bucket. So then it will tell us from what network that request came, what is a public IP address, what is a browser version they are using. We will get that information, but not that username and all. We cannot get such type of information. So the uniqueness will come across a globe with public IP address. We will get that information. So for that, you must enable server access logging. Now, in the same static website hosting, we can even redirect the requests also. For example, whatever the requests are coming from this for this Avinash.website, I want to redirect to another domain called avisway.ml. When I click on save, now whoever comes here, whoever refresh this, there you can see automatically it is going to another website. Why? Because I have configured redirections. See, I'm giving Avinash.website only. Just observe that output. It automatically went to avisway.ml. Why? Because here we have configured redirections. You can redirect to another bucket. You can redirect to another domain or another website. So you can configure the redirections here. So if you want, you can disable here, click on save. That is what it is. Okay. So you can host any static website by using this. So any questions on this static website, guys? I got a couple of questions here. Can we log? I hope I covered that question, Vijay. So does all these features will be available in free tier? Yes, it comes under free tier. But if you are mapping a domain name, so for that you need to create a hosted zone and all. So I hope I'm assuming you really don't know what exactly that is. So I'm assuming you are going to test this with this endpoint. So using this endpoint is free. You are not going to get charged for that. But mapping domain name, those are completely different things. We will discuss that in our Route 53. At moment, you guys just test with this endpoint. Okay, so that is a static website hosting page. So this object level logging, as I mentioned, along with CloudTrail, we will discuss this. Then default encryption, that is a big lengthy topic. We will discuss that in our next session. Then object log, again we'll discuss in our next session. Tags. So basically, we can deliver all our metadata by using tags option. We can allocate tags at object level or bucket level. Simple. Tag is nothing but combination of key and value pairs. Whatever the metadata you want to give. What is metadata? So data about the data is simple. So I have an S3 bucket. I have some data inside that. But I do have some information. I do have some information about that bucket also, right? That is what metadata. Simple. I have index.html. If I open this, it is going to show some data. It is going to give some data. But if I go to properties, it is saying when it is got created, when it is got modified, what is the details, where exactly. These all information is nothing but metadata. So data about that particular data. So if you want to give your own metadata for your S3 bucket, we have an option called tags. Not only this, S3, take any resource throughout AWS account. We can give our metadata. The importance of these tags are, if you want to filter all the resources you are using for a particular project, you can use tags and you can get that information. For that, we have an option called resource groups and SSM. There we will go in detail, but I'll quickly show you that. So now I'm given name as AWS demo. Okay. I want to add another tag. For what purpose you created this? Okay, for a demo purpose, I created this. Who is the owner for this? Okay, Avinash is the owner. What department? So these all information is nothing but metadata. Now, by using this resource group, you can just go there and you can filter all the resources. Again, that will completely take out our main topic at moment. So we will see that in our coming sessions. So not only this, S3 we can even filter IAM users, we can filter EC2 resources, we can filter any by using tags. So you can add your metadata or you can give your metadata by using this tags option. Okay. So then along with this, we have transfer acceleration. When coming to transfer acceleration, we discussed AWS global infrastructure, right? We have regions, we have availability zones, and we have edge locations. So let's assume your bucket is somewhere else and you have customers across the globe, and what are the data you have inside this bucket, you want to deliver the data without any latency, with low latencies. So in that case, we can enable this transfer acceleration. Data in and out into this bucket is going to be accelerated by edge locations. Remember, this will not come under free tier eligibility. If you are enabling this feature, you are coming out from free tier eligibility. Okay. Again, I want to test this first. I want to test whether I'm going to get best result or not for this S3 bucket from one particular region. Then we have a comparison tool, speed comparison tool. Here it is. Just click on this. It open S3 transfer acceleration speed comparison tool. Now, from my currently connected network, one object is going to upload directly to S3 bucket. This is direct upload. So my bucket is in Mumbai region. I am here in Naresh IT network. The first test is it is directly uploading data to this Mumbai region from my currently connected network. Second, it will give the result, and second, this below one is via edge location. Let's assume you have an edge location here in Hyderabad. The same data, if it is flowing over the edge location and it compares the both values, and it will tell, okay, how much best percentage you will get, how much negative percentage you will get. If you are getting, see, in this case, is it big useful? Physically, I am very near to Mumbai region, right? Let's assume this is not Mumbai. This is like a Northern Virginia. So then this edge location is useful. This is going to take some time. In that case, as we are here in Hyderabad, we may not get best result, direct upload. So then you can go with the edge. See, no change, 0% faster. So both are same. From Naresh IT network, from my currently connected device, if I upload or download something to my bucket and via edge location, nothing is changing. So do I really need to enable this feature on this bucket if I'm going to continuously work from Naresh IT? No need. So but see here, if you are taking San Francisco region, so if you are enabling this feature, you can upload or download 17% faster if your bucket is in San Francisco. Exactly same way it is going to run all these tests for all the regions. So you can decide whether you can enable it or not. So again, this will not come under free tier eligibility. Don't enable that feature. Okay. The remaining options we will discuss in our next session. So, but before that, create an S3 bucket. While creating, observe the naming limitations. While creating S3 bucket, observe the naming limitations. Okay. Enable the versioning and test it. It is free. apply lifecycle management rule to move data from S3 standard to delete automatically. Same perform task 3 with tags or prefix option. See here, if you're directly going, it is going to applicable for entire bucket, right? But give a try to apply a lifecycle role with a particular tagged objects or prefixed objects or tags object level we will discuss. Try to configure this only for one particular folder. Except that folder, it should not show like for all the objects you are selecting, it should not show expiration durations and all. But all the data you have inside that folder, it should show that. Okay. We have an article optimizing S3 performance, best design patterns. So here is a article, just scroll down and here is a topics, 2 more topics. So I want you to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes to read this. We can optimize S3 data performance and all. We discussed like by using transfer acceleration, you can, by enabling caching, you can, by caching again CloudFront. We have a service, we have a session for that. Along with that, how you can design and all. So I want you to go through that. Right? You can take a picture or you can take a screenshot of this one. So I'll share this document after a couple of sessions. At moment, take a screenshot, please. Any questions for me, guys? Okay, so in our next session, we are going to discuss topics like object lock and encryption. This is an important topic. We are going to discuss about encryptions and events, and if time permits, bucket policies, permissions policies and ACLs. We will discuss these topics in our next session. Okay, so that's it for today's session, guys. See you again tomorrow. Thank you.